Here we go.
Okay.
Buddy,
And that way we can record this and okay.
okay.
Shall we go ahead and
Welcome.
start?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think this will be great here to get started and just do a little introduction. Amina's been working with me here at the Flower of Life, and we're really excited about this series that you have coming up. And you're an experienced teacher that you've been working with compassionate communication for a number of years. You've also taught massage therapy, and you're working now at the Women's Initiative, and you do a lot with helping people just ground and find presence in themselves, and how this is a path to healing in and of itself. So I'm really looking forward to what you have to share today.
Thank you. So I'll share a story of synchronicity first, and I'm gonna. Do you want to admit, or shall I do it?
Yeah,
She's good.
I'll take care of all of that.
Okay. So, not so long ago, I turned 79, and I had taught a whole series of classes during Zoom on trauma, compassionate communication, and insight meditation. And I felt like that teaching and my notes were a legacy of sorts that I wanted to pass on to someone. I had a sense that family might go, okay, where's the thing that eats the papers up, right? Just let it go. And Christiana came to mind, and I thought, I'm going to ask her if she would like to have my notes. And so I'm going to hold my heart with this one. And before I had a chance to ask her, she called me up and said, I want you to teach on my website. And so there was just something that touched my being so deeply that there's a language that we may not hear, but there is certainly communication between the hearts, and that giving and receiving and willingness on all sides to do both. So that's how I arrived here. And Christiana and I met during COVID, actually. She was it Connecticut at that time? We met online and we did a lot of sharing together. And I didn't realize that she actually had a background in Charlottesville and has moved here with her family and lives about 5 minutes from me. So the story continues. At any rate, so I've updated my work, my trauma work, because as you know, we're all on this journey together. And we're always learning something new. And I think the piece for me is really exploring and deepening this idea of the new way to speak about this is embodied awareness. It's about being present in our physical bodies, the way children are, and animals that haven't been overly domesticated, right? They can, uh, like my dog, I spoke a little earlier, knows that this warm weather is for rolling in the dirt and in the grass, and seeing what scent is resting in the air, being fully alive. And so I'm still exploring that theme. So as a wonderful teacher by the name of Ram Dass said, we're all just walking each other home. So here we are on a little walk this morning. And one of the things I would like everyone to do is feel comfortable. And you might want to have paper and pen because we may do a little journaling, a little thoughtfulness, and you may choose not to do that. And one way that we can create a safe space for all of us is to have an agreement. And the agreement is you can share with anybody anything that I say. However, if any of you here, right, my sisters in this dance, any of you here decide to share something, that we keep it here. We don't share it with the outside world. And that means we have spaciousness to speak, and we know that whatever we say will be held compassionately by each other. And the other thing, so I'm guessing we all have agreement in that. And then the other thing I'd like to say is that there may be some things that I say that you're not in agreement with. And I'm hoping that you will choose complete freedom in accepting that for yourself. You know, whatever I say, oops, sorry, I did that by habit, just let someone in. So, yeah, some things may work, so take them, own them, mold them into how they work for you. And the things that don't work, just let go of. Okay, does that sound good for everybody? So I'm going to invite us just to take a deep breath and settle in. And a good way for me to do that is feel my feet on the floor. Sometimes what they call soothing or safe touch. Right? Just to feel the body and the ground. And if your feet aren't on the floor, you can imagine that the floor is not too far away, because we know that beneath the floor, wherever we are, eventually we come to the earth. Right? And there's an energy that comes up from the earth. We can feel it. We might explore that later. And that energy supports us in grounding, in feeling more embodied, feeling like we're in our bodies. And I can almost hear someone saying, what if my body hurts too much? I don't want to be in my body. And we'll explore in this class a little bit, and in the coming classes, how being in our body can help us heal and can understand where our pain might come from and how to work with it. So there's a story, and I'm not used to speaking with glasses on, so I may do this, reading my notes, taking my glasses off, but here we are. So there's a wonderful story that I read some years ago on Facebook, and I don't know the teacher in the story, but his father was a teacher of mine. And he taught students at what I believe was an outdoor school, or where the students spent most of their time out of doors. And the students, and he had the opportunity to watch a butterfly birth itself out of a chrysalis. What a magical moment. And as the butterfly sat on whatever branches they had in this container, adapting to its new environment, to its new life, the teacher spoke to the students and said, you know, we have some choices here. We could have the butterfly stay with us. And if the butterfly stays with us, it will always have food and it will always be safe, right? No predators are going to get it. No strong winds will take it away or heavy rains. It will be safe with us. And the other choice, I'm going to put my hand to my heart again. The other choice we have is to let the butterfly go free. So there's no wrong and right answer in this. And you might want to respond in chat, do a little journaling about what you might have said in that moment. Go free, have comfort and safety. And you might want to notice what is under your answer. Is there something in your life you'd like to let go of and just let your soul have wings? Let your being have wings? Or are you at a time in your life when you just need some rest, peace, ease, safety? Ah, I see Carmen's answer, and if it's in chat, we can read it. I would let the butterfly go free, but I would be very scared. That's a beautiful answer. It's honest. What the children all said, everyone, was let the butterfly go free. Okay. So when I heard that story, I wondered if the students recognized something of themselves in the butterfly, remembering that they're at a free school, right? Where they can have a free spirit and be outside a lot. And then I thought about a saying that says, a ship is safe in the harbor, but that's not what ships are made for. And I thought about our humanity, who I am as a human being, who we all are. And I suspect we need both. I suspect that sometimes in our life we need a safe harbor, a place where we can rest and have ease and feel safe. And sometimes there are external things. You know, the buzzword in therapy is having resources, right? There are resources that we have in the world and resources within, right? So you might, in this moment, choose to imagine what some of your in the world resources are. So for me, it is often nature, a beautiful poem. On rare moments, my sister is here. She'll tell you I ate a pint of ice cream yesterday. I haven't had ice cream in months and months and months. But one of the deeper things that we might call on, maybe calling a friend. The ocean is my place of healing. So I'm just putting things out there. Beautiful music. So, what are some of the resources? When we have those resources, it's called co-regulation, which means it helps us become self-regulated or balanced on the inside. I remember one day just coming in, I don't remember what the story was, but I was overwhelmed and I just lay back on the bed and wondered where my still water is. And I'm going to read a poem that talks about that. You might know this poem. Do you know the piece of Wild Things? Yeah, I think most people are saying yes, but I'll read it anyway. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives might be. So someone's saying the audio is not allowing Carmen to hear my voice. Can everyone else hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So you may have to redo that, Carmen. I'm not sure. So, when despair for the world grows in me and I awake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives might be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time I rest in the world and am free. So I'm going to invite us to do a little exercise. I lay on the bed and I sure didn't want to go out in the world to find literal still water. I needed to find that place inside of me where I had some safety and peace. I needed to be a ship in the harbor in that moment. So what we can do is a simple exercise. And in this exercise, I'm going to invite you, and this is an easy one, to think of a person, a place, a something in your life, something you might have heard or seen that touched the still water inside of you, where you could feel safety. I remember someone telling me once, no people, but I had a tree that I loved. It might be a pet or a story that we heard. Can you think of something that had an impact on your life? The face of a newborn child. Something where you felt safe and loved or at peace. My safe person was my godmother's mother. I don't remember one thing she said, but I know what it was like to be in her presence. No words necessary. So I'm wondering if everyone has something. You have something, a memory. And what I would like to do is invite you to see, where do you feel that memory in your body? And notice it could show up on your face, your toe, your abdomen, your heart, front, back. See if you can feel that memory in your body. Yeah, Carmen says, my mom in my chest. And maybe you want to put your hand on that place. And if you don't have a memory, we can work with later how to find a safe harbor in your life and how to feel it in your body. So wherever that feeling is in your body, can you notice what that feeling feels like? Does it feel safe, vulnerable, soft, caring, bright, beautiful, tender? What are some feelings, some words that might come up with that place? Maybe sadness. Sometimes when I touch back into something very dear to me, I can feel some sadness. Maybe that person is no longer with me, or it reminds me of that was then. But that place, so if we understand that everything that has happened to us in our lives is held in body memory through the nervous system. That's why we can feel that safe place or whatever it was, right? At home, peaceful, a place I used to live. That home, peaceful, the place you used to live is held in body memory. And that can become a respite for us at any time in our lives. But particularly when trauma comes up, it's not about escaping, it's about finding the safe harbor. Right? And that's in our body. And here we are with that theme of embodied awareness, or coming home and finding our bodies as a safe place to be. So, where is your still water? I love that poem. The first time I heard that poem, there's a line in it that talks about the day-blind stars waiting with their light. And I was so moved by that line, I cried. That line is a safe place for me, very deep. So the question is, and this is just, you can write, journal, put it in chat. What would it be like to be fully free to be ourselves? If the children had said, let's keep the butterfly would never have had a chance to explore what it was like to be fully a butterfly. And it's not that butterflies don't need quiet places to rest. But what is it like to be fully ourselves, to be who we are? And who we are is often under the stories of who we believe we are. Sometimes we have stories that aren't so good, and we forget who we are under those stories. Where did we come from, and why are we here? My Qigong teacher says we have one precious body that allows us to be human, right? Allows us to be here on this earth and in our lives. And then he adds, and to explore or fulfill our soul's purpose. Why are we here? Doesn't mean we have to do something big. As I'm older, I see more and more. Sometimes it's the little kindnesses that matter. Why are we here? So, awakened embodiment is a journey. And I don't think there's a destination. I don't think there's a finishing line. It's an unfolding and a process, right? But it's on this journey, it's an exploration that allows us to become who we already are. Now, these are things that some people might say, no, that doesn't make sense to me, and that's okay. We get to explore who we are underneath our stories. Maybe there's some stories we'd like to let go of. I have them, right? Maybe I'm done with that part of my life. And sometimes we feel like, we'll talk about this more, but ready to enter a new threshold. So when we speak about trauma, what gets in the way of us allowing ourselves to be who we richly are, who we beautifully are? It's usually trauma. And trauma is like a glitch, right? It's congestion. It gets in the way of the flow of life. So if we start at almost the beginning, every infant, and this is including prenatal, which means pre-birth infants, every infant needs to be seen and heard. Every infant needs to feel safe and loved. And when the needs for safety and unconditional love aren't met, the personality forms around, how do I get loved, right? What do I have to do to feel safe? And if there's a pattern that happens over and over, we begin to believe that, and it becomes a story. And that pattern begins to form what are known as core beliefs. So core beliefs aren't just about needs that didn't get met. They're just deeply held beliefs that shape how we see ourselves, others, and the world. So I'm going to share a story. This is another true story. A friend of mine She and her husband have three beautiful daughters that are, in a way, like my granddaughters. And when they were all well into school, the mom decided I'd like a part-time job. And she told me she was going to go to a daycare center because they were looking for assistants. And when she told me the story, she came back horrified. She said, I went there and there were all these babies and like toddlers, right, crying, and nobody was holding them. They were all on their telephones. She didn't work there. She couldn't be in a place like that. So I felt sad when I heard that story. And I wondered how the world appeared to those little ones who were probably in that daycare 5 days a week. They needed still water. They needed co-regulation to know that they were safe and loved. Yikes. Now, I shared with Christiana a story about how I came into trauma work. I have a friend in Charlottesville, and she said to me, I'm studying trauma work with Janet Evergreen, who teaches here locally in Charlottesville. And she said, I need people to practice with. And me, I was the toucher in a non-touching family, right? My father would push me away because I'd always want to give him kisses and so forth. And he didn't do it unkindly. But no wonder I became a massage therapist, right? So anyway, I went to see my friend, and this work, you can do it on Zoom, you can do it sitting, and you can, if you're in an office, probably on a massage table, fully clothed and tucked under a blanket. And so there I am on the table, and all of a sudden, this feeling came up for me, and I didn't really understand about, working with things somatically, things held in the body. But it was this deep, almost trembling that came up from within me. And it was the knowledge that as an infant, I hadn't been held enough. And enough is whatever that individual needs. And I finally realized that most of my life, I hadn't felt safe in my skin. Does that have resonance for anyone? That's one. We all want to feel safe in our skin. So that was a big opening for me. And that's why I was so moved by that story about the little babies, because they needed still water. They needed to be held. They needed to be seen and heard. And so we often have a child, an infant or child in us. Remember, all the things that have happened are held in body, memory, and the nervous system. And usually it's a child that needed to have been seen and heard, wasn't met fully. And I'm not shaming or blaming parents. Our parents did what they knew how to do. But here we are at this wonderful time in our lives when we have the opportunity to revisit some of these places, to befriend and tend the unloved parts of ourselves in order that there's healing. Right? That's it. And once these places begin to heal, those places in our nervous system, literally, and in the energy, the life force that flows through us, become uncongested. I'd like to say it's an overnight process. There might be a boom, where something feels great, but often it's a gentle process. And one of my trauma teachers said, you get there quicker if you go slower. And the reason is there's a saying, you can't push the river. It's about flowing with the body, flowing with the energy, with the life force. It's a gradual letting go. And what supports us in letting go is nurturing those sweet places inside of us that hold the sweet memories, right? And in the classes that are coming up, we're going to talk about where these memories are in different nervous systems in the body. But even beyond that, because we're working with more than just a physical body, we're working energetically. We're working with the life force that flows through us, through trees and flowers and small bees and butterflies and little dogs back here pretending not to listen, right? So, and we can have a core belief might be that the world's a scary place to live in, or I love learning. Sometimes we have both. They seem a little enmeshed. So we're obviously wanting to heal those places, allow those places to become whole, where we have those messages that where we feel sadness or fear, or might feel unloved. So, in time, our experiences or our expectations, our thoughts crystallize. So there's that word chrysalis again, but these crystallize into a belief. We begin to believe the stories that I'm not safe in my body. That wasn't an overnight thing that happened. It was through much of childhood. Didn't feel safe in my body. Crystallize into a belief. A belief becomes a habit. Habit shapes our personality, and personality shapes our destiny. Okay, does that make sense? Does that make a little sense? Yeah, the things that we believe, we begin to believe that's who we are. And on this planet, so I'm not always following my notes here. Um, let's see. There's a cartoon, and I love this cartoon. There's a stage, and there's a big sign above the stage that says meeting for children of normal families. And in the audience, there's one person. Okay. So I think all of us, I wouldn't be in that audience. It was normal. I mean, it was normal for its time, but what's normal, right? So we're all in this dance together. We're all in this dance together, healing because we want to. I would like to be more embodied. I'd like to be more of who I already am at the good, bright, light-filled core of my being. Okay. So you may want to write down if some core beliefs emerge for you. So I wrote down one of mine. In order to be loved, I better be nice to everyone and not say what I'm thinking. Boy, that's tricky, right? Right? Be nice to everybody. Of course, what happens on my end is that creates some big congestion because people really never get to know who I am, what I'm feeling. Right? Who am I? Back to that who am I again. Right? Can't do anything right. Right? I want to be smart like my sister, my brother. And they're not all my core feelings. So I'm sure there's the essence of some of these beliefs. Is the good thing to know is that so many of these beliefs are embedded in humanity. Do we see that playing out in, I wasn't going to say it, but here I am, in politics or what's happening globally? All these old stories that people have, right? And someone just wrote, I can't be happy because when I'm happy, I get hurt. Thank you for sharing that one. Yeah. So you may want to journal just a little bit, right? Pause. This might be a moment. Sometimes talking about these things bring up core beliefs, bring up our stories. So if you need to pause, you can even raise a hand and say, I need to take a pause. You might want to write down if there's some core beliefs coming up. And they might be beliefs about you or life. life in general. And then it's going to get a little heavy. And I have this feeling all of you know this, right? All of you know this already. We have my experience in receiving trauma work and in offering it to others is that most of our core beliefs are not just, don't stem from us alone. They come down, they're ancestral. They're often related to maybe a way one of our parents was raised or a grandparent. There's patterns in families. And beyond family, the ancestral, and religious is another one. So if we're looking at being self-embodied, one of my trauma teachers said, I went to spirituality because it was too painful to be in my body. And in the early days, in the 60s, spirituality was often about being far out, kind of a non-body experience. And we know some religions even teach this kind of mortification of the flesh. It's letting go of the world in order to be spiritual. Here's Carmen. I feel love when I give, even when I even give my, okay, I'm not reading it quite right. I feel love when we'll get it, I'll get it a little later. Unless you want to share it, if you can speak it, Carmen or Christiana.
Yeah, I just you see that it's I feel love when I give, even when I don't. Um,
Yeah.
Uh, well, I can complete it. I'm sorry. I just clicked too early. I mean, like, I feel loved when I give too much. I mean, like, sometimes I don't have even for me myself, and I just feel like that's the way it's supposed to be. You just have to give, 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 give. And sometimes I forget myself in the process. That's what I meant.
One of the things that we'll explore in other classes is self-compassion and self-forgiveness. Okay, that's a big challenge. It's easy to be compassionate for others, but not always for ourselves. And there are ways in which we can learn how to do this. So we can explore this. So thank you for sharing that, Carmen. Yeah. So a lot of times religious beliefs in the past have been about not identifying with our bodies. And in this new way of thinking, the embodied awareness or coming home to ourselves this is about being in our bodies. The Dalai Lama has and I'm not really good at direct quotes, but he has a wonderful saying, and it's, I don't need a temple to pray in. My body is my temple and my religion is kindness. Could we create that safe place in our bodies that this is sacred? And one of the things I realized, this is a me statement, an I statement, is sometimes we need community to heal in. And for me, that means people that share the same values. It doesn't mean I discount people who share different ways of thinking and being. But I don't always want to be around people where I feel I'm walking uphill or maybe not being seen or heard. Sometimes that happens. I'm not talking about touchy-feely, nice all the time. And Ram Dass once said, and I'm acknowledging my sisters in this group here, not about you. He once said, if you think you're enlightened, spend the holidays with your family. Right? Our families teach us about compassion, perhaps, and love. So I'm just going here. When we have trauma works and we have these memories in our body, right? Mm, I'm okay here, Christiana. Great, you're back. Okay. So trauma work creates a safe bridge or a safe space for memories to emerge. I had no idea that day on my friend's massage table that something from early infancy was going to arise, right? Clueless. So in doing this work, whether it's with ourselves, and we'll learn how to do that in classes coming up, as well as gently working with other people. Okay. So it's about creating a safe space for memories to come up. And this allows our nervous system to gradually be re-educated. That's why we go slowly, because we're rebooting, rewiring, we're transforming like the butterfly. Yeah. We're transforming energy in our body into something else. And that takes time. That's a process. It's not for me that scary things don't come up from time to time. I have lots of stories to work on. And it's not about working on all the stories. It's about being present with what's there in the moment. I don't think I can't do all the stories in this lifetime, right? But I can learn how to be present with what's there and have compassion. And sometimes some of those feelings gradually let go. Gradually let go. So I'm just going to check our time here. Okay, we've got about halfway through. We're doing well. Okay. So one of the pieces is we don't always have these conscious memories about our past, and it's a good thing because we'd be overwhelmed, right? So in our being, if we're looking for language, and I like words, I like language. To me, that language builds a bridge to understanding. So in our bodies, or in our, let's say our mind, our nervous system, we have a place called the unconscious. And the unconscious is things we're not aware of. It's like the dark side of the moon. I think that was a piece of music by Pink Floyd, wasn't it? I don't know. Anyway, we've got the dark side of the moon here. We know it's there, but we just can't see it. We're not aware of it. So there are memories held in the unconscious mind, the unconscious part of our being. And what will happen is a trigger will come along. It's something we see, we hear, it's a feeling. If you ever watch dogs and small children, they're so sensitive to the environment, right? They know when something is amiss unless they're overly domesticated. I was listening to Jane Goodall say what her favorite animal is, and she was what's the fancy word, a primatologist. She lived with chimpanzee monkeys for decades, understood them well, saw them as beings rather than just an animal or scientific numbers. And she said, most people think my favorite animal would be a chimpanzee, but it's not. It's a dog. They're faithful, right? They're present. They know what's happening. You can trust them. Yeah. So anyway, we have this unconscious mind, and sometimes something will trigger a feeling, and we might know exactly what it is, or it's just a sensation in the body. Now that emotion is moving from the unconscious mind to what we would call the subconscious, just below the thinking mind, but we're feeling it. And then it may emerge all the way into our conscious mind. So we do that all the time. We could be listening to something on the radio and something gets triggered and we go, well, you know, boy, that reminds me of something. And then you put the pieces together, right? So we're bringing this to trauma work. So it could be about anything. But this, it comes up from the unconscious, but the trauma, the feelings are held much deeper, I would say. And the key is, can we notice when things come up without judgment? And notice where we feel contracted in the body. What will allow you to soften and open? And that's like, where is my still water? So now I'm going to have a request. We can do an exercise here. And I'm just requesting, if you're driving, Carmen, please don't do this while you're driving, okay? So yeah, if anybody's driving here, we want to keep ourselves safe.
No,
So
I'm in my car, but my son is on. I mean, I'm waiting for him. He's gonna take a class for 2 hours, so
you're
I'm
amazing.
inside the car.
You're amazing. Thank you. So what we can do is we want to find a safe place, where we're sitting. How are we feeling in our bodies? Right? Is it a place where we can feel pretty safe? Feel our feet on the ground. And in this exercise, we're not working with big stories. Okay, we're going to work with a small story. Maybe something where you have something's irritating you, right? Might be a mosquito. That might be a big story if it's 3 a.m, right? But a little, something pesky. Right? Maybe I forgot to get something at the store and I really don't want to go out again. No, little feeling. Okay. And I'm going to imagine, if you need more time, just raise your hand. Do a hand raise, and should bring that up on the screen. Okay. And just like we had our good place, our still water, let me know if I'm speaking too soft too. I have a voice that disappears sometimes. So we have our still water is there for us inside, our safe place. Just let it be there as if it's just sitting by us in case we need it. Or sitting inside of us, much better way to say that. And can you take that little irritation and notice where you feel that in your body? Someone playing music too loud. Tired and I need to be busy. Whatever it is. Notice where you might feel that in your body. And recognize it. Does it have a name? And so there's a story that goes with it. What if we went to, what if we went to an emotion? So I use the word frustration. So we're going to put the story over here. Okay. What if it's just an emotion? What's the emotion that story triggers? That might be frustration, grumpy, tired, upset, little sad, cranky. Sounds like the Seven Dwarfs. Good. All right. And you feel that, notice where you feel it in the body. And instead of wanting it to go away, disappointment and anger, can you allow it to be there? Okay. Can you make space for it? Or as they say, have tea with it. This thing keeps coming up for me. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to stay present with this feeling. Right. And invite that feeling and allow it to be there so that this thing that's happening can be fully seen and heard. and explore it like we did with our still water. Does it feel tight or hot? Vulnerable? Weak? What's the feeling around it? Maybe there's someone once said to me, I don't feel anything, I'm numb. Numbness is a feeling. And under numbness, there's more feelings. Right? So noticing with kindness, just letting it be there. With tenderness. And we're exploring where it is in the body and exploring the texture, what it really feels like. So not just anger that we think about, but what it feels like. What does vulnerability feel like? What's the body sensation? Maybe there's no word, maybe. So we'll work with this feeling. We're going to work with this. Someone, it might be a color, red or blue or purple or green, black, white. All right. Just be there. Can you be there with this? The same way so tiredness sounds like a big one. And then in this moment, we're going to ask this feeling, what do you need? What do you need? And trust what comes to you. If nothing comes, maybe the answer is silence. What is the need under this feeling? It might be that safe harbor, that rest, to be seen or heard. It might need space. Releasing the need is space to let go. That's beautiful. It's another deep one. Releasing it. And can you nurture this? Can you nurture it the way you'd nurture an infant? A small child that is hungry and tired. Can you nurture this? Okay. We need to let go of things. Some things, a hot pan, I let go of quickly. Right? But other things that I've been carrying for a long time sometimes need nurturing. So I'm going to bring something into this, and it brings tears to my eyes. It's something one of my trauma teacher in perinatal work said to me, and I share it with others. You did what you had to do to survive. Congratulations, you survived. I'm going to say that again. In our life, we did what we had to do to survive. Congratulations, you survived. And now what I'm going to add to that is now we're learning how to do it differently. We turn to lots of things in our life to make ourselves numb because we didn't have tools that taught us how to be present with our wounds. And then, as Carmen said so wisely, to know how to release them. And the first step is to recognize that it's a wound. So there's an acronym for this, and I have a file I'm making up with lots of resources for everyone here that will get sent out to all of you. But the acronym is RAIN. The R is recognize what's there. The A is allow it to be there. That's scary. And that spirituality that had us, I'm using that word spirituality for me, disconnecting from my body, is now saying, no, my body is a sacred place. And just like Carmen, I want to release what's been living inside of me. I want to do it wisely and slowly. So I'm allowing myself to get to know it. It's something that really needed to be processed or seen and heard earlier, but we didn't have the tools. Investigate is not with my mind, but where is it in the body? Maybe more than one place. And what did it need? And what does it need now? So it needs to be free. And your need might be to be free, or rest, or communication, kindness to self, understanding, nurtured. So we did what we had to do to survive. We see that enacted out in the world, right? People doing what they think they need to do to survive. And we're learning a different way to do it. We do it without judgment. We do it when we feel contracted. And we do it by softening and opening, right? Finding that still water that says, this is scary, but I've got this other place in me I can go when I get really scared. I'm going to go back to my heart and my mother, or I'm going to go back to my godmother and feel what that feels like. What does that feel like to me? To be scary and overwhelming. So that's why we go slow. That's why we do our best to start small. So what I'm going to offer is that to Carmen, but to all of us, sometimes there are rituals that you can do, literally. So being down, my trauma teacher lives just opposite the Rivanna River. And there are ways with a friend or on your own where you can take something symbolic of that energy that you've been holding on to and put it in the river, or let it go energetically. It doesn't mean you won't feel it and continue to feel it. But what you can do again is go back to the safe place. And we need a lot of learning how to have self-compassion. That's all. There's a workbook for that. That's a great thing to do with friends and online. You know, a workbook on self-compassion mindfulness. And understand that what we're going through is not just ours alone, but it's usually common to humanity. What we go through, our sadness, our pain, it might be different things that cause it, but these feelings are common to humanity, right? And we're learning how to become whole within the body. That's the spiritual dance. That's spirituality. And we have to be patient and be around the people that love us, that can give us a hug, will listen, and learn these tools. So that's why we're here. It's a reminder for me. Okay. I'm just going to put this here. So let's see, just looking over these notes. So, I use that analogy. If there's a child knocking at a door and they're cranky and tired and frightened and whatever their feelings are, we wouldn't say, come back when you feel well, right? You'd let that child in and you'd feed them, you'd hold them, you'd listen to them. And that child knocking at the door is you, it's me, it's all of us, right? There's a poem here. Where is it? I'm gonna read this now. By the poet Rumi. And it's called The Guest House. Okay? He's referring to our bodies, right? We're only guessing here for a period of time, right? This is the guest house. And he says, this human being is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary visitor comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing. There's one more line in the poem, and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So what that means is when that feeling of anger comes up, malice, I was a nice person. Guess what? I have a streak of meanness in me. Okay? Sometimes that meanness comes knocking at the door. And I have to say, I can hold it and it gets less and less because I understand that it's not really me. It was my response to maybe need to have had a kinder parent. My dad loved us, but he had post-traumatic stress. He was a veteran. Sometimes he wasn't kind. So that's what this dance is about. I don't think I want all these pieces in all at the same time. Not a good idea. You know, in shamanic tradition, they talk about how a part of our soul fragments when it doesn't feel safe. And in therapy language, you would say disassociates, right? But the shamans had it right too. They said a part of our being fragments and goes off hiding. And we have to see, so in the tradition, what will bring that piece back? What would allow it to stay with us? What will allow it to stay with us? Maybe being kinder to ourselves. And something else you're taught in that process is shamanic process. You don't want all these pieces coming back at the same time. It's too hot to handle, too much. One or two pieces, maybe. So I'm just going to do a peek here. It's 12:06 and we're here to 12:30. I can certainly be here a little later, but I want to try and stay to this timetable. Does anyone need a water in, water out break? Do you need to stand up and stretch, grunt, howl out the window, right? The full moon has just passed. What do you need right now? Check into your body. What does your body need right in this moment? Anybody? We all just going to hang out here? Do you want to take a minute? I'm fine. What are your needs? To be alone for a while. You could be alone for a while, Carmen, and this is pre-recorded. So if you felt like it, you could listen to the rest at another time. Well, I'll show you how to navigate Christiana's website. But what I'm going to speak about next, okay, is life is not about becoming perfect. Something a mentor shared with me. So what I wanted to say in our upcoming classes, we're going to explore somewhat the roots and nature of our nervous system and how to untether. That means to let go or untie ourselves from our limiting beliefs, right? So that, like the butterfly, we can be free to live our lives fully. Okay, Carmen's coming back. Yay. Okay. Stretch, anybody? Oh, grunt groan. Ah, ah, ah. Okay, shake. It's a good thing. Qigong exercise, right? Let's see. Get up and shake. Anybody else want to get up and shake? We'll see if Carmen comes back in a few minutes. Just shake it out. Right. Letting go, letting our life force move through us. We're going to explore this next. Okay. Yeah, I think we will finish just in time. Maybe do a little. Anybody? I'd love to read what's in the chat. I haven't been looking at that.
It's good.
Yeah. Okay. There we are. Think we should start up again? Wait another minute? What do you think, Christiana?
I know Carmen was going to the bathroom, but I think we can start back up again. That's fine.
Yeah. So I had a beautiful mentor who passed away in the last year and a half, I think. His name was Atum O'Kane, and I only ever met him about 7 times in my life, if that. But his presence touched me deeply. He was reminded me a little bit of myself, that was certainly much different. But he was soft-spoken and a wonderful storyteller, and he had wisdom. So I'll own up to being somewhat gentle and a storyteller. Okay. He said, life is not about becoming perfect. And do any of you here understand that model of trying? Oh, there's Carmen. Yay. So I was just talking about a mentor of mine who said, life is not about becoming perfect. It's an unfolding journey. And I'm learning that we don't even need to arrive, that we're not supposed to work harder to get somewhere, to be better. If no one was around, would I be enough for myself right here? Right? Right now, I have my friend hat on, my teacher hat on, my storyteller hat on. Right? If I was alone, would I be enough for myself right here? So this is not about I finally arrived. It's an unfolding. And he said, when we try to be perfect, it interrupts the process of becoming. I'm trying to get it all right now. Right? And I had a kind of vision of myself about 8 years old, sitting very narrow, right? Very contracted in my body at school, I think, writing and thinking, if I do everything right, everything will be okay. And I think that might speak to some people. No, not everyone. Just as so we interrupt the process of becoming if we try to be perfect all the time. Yeah. When we look at the sacred book of nature, and each of us are like a book in some ways, and then we have this larger book, nature, we see plants unfold. They begin as a seed, a sprout, they blossom, and then they finally return to earth. By trying to be perfect, to get it right, the natural process of transformation is interrupted. So that's a big piece. It's not about getting it all right, or if I do this, that will happen. So I mentioned before, a teacher in something called Qigong, and he actually goes so far to say there's no negative energy. He says everything is energy, form and formlessness. They exist simultaneously. We are not separate from it. It flows through every cell in our body. Our atoms dance. And what happens is when we have congestion, when we have trauma, it interrupts this natural flow of energy. That's what gets affected first, is the energy. Then it affects our emotions and the physical body. The energy's congested. So I can think of a beautiful brook. One of my friendly favorite places as a child was a brook. And that water, just listening to the sound of the water and this little minnows and the frogs, lots of good memories there. And what happens is, if people were to throw lots of leaves and old tires and cans, tin cans, soda cans, beer cans, whatever, in any kind of stream, the water actually becomes almost poisonous. It's not healthy for animals or people to drink there, right? Or animals to live there. So this is the same about the energy in our body. It's one reason we need to get up and move, is to keep this life force or potency, whatever word we like for it, moving. And our journey is not about getting rid of something bad or negative. Here we are. It's about transforming the energy, refining the energy. What a beautiful image that is. I mean, there's a caterpillar looks a heck of a lot different from a butterfly. Caterpillars have their own beauty, right? But it's about refining the energy around who we are. Caterpillar, chrysalis, butterfly, all are equally beautiful. And I'm going to put something in here, and you can hit the I disagree button. I don't know where it is, but I have to wonder if we came to this planet, and prior to coming here, we were asked if we'd volunteer, and we said, I will. Okay. We came to this planet, and part of our work is to help transform energy on this planet. But it's not so much about doing it out there. It's about doing it inside. And it means if a little part of me is able to heal, that density has become no longer that, that heaviness you feel when, if you read the newspaper. Nobody reads newspapers anymore, but some do, but that heaviness you feel when you hear what's happening globally or about some tragedy. We're here to support that energy in becoming lighter, becoming like light. And in our own process of transforming this energy, you get where I'm going with this. It helps, brings a little more lightness and a little less density to the planet. There used to be a bumper sticker that said, think globally, act locally. And in this, what we're doing here locally is in our bodies, right? Think globally, act locally. Transformation. So you can ask yourself, for those of you that have been perhaps doing a little journaling, what stage am I in? Because like my trauma teachers, and there's some things they said that just really have stuck like glue, so to speak. And one is our bodies never lie. As a matter of fact, our bodies hurt to get our attention. It's not because we did something bad or wrong, but they might be saying you need to stretch more or you need to rest more. Right? Bodies don't lie. I love that idea of the instinctive nature. In shamanism, there's something called a power animal, but let's say a kind of guidance, could be a power plant. We have power people in our lives, but you could never think of a domesticated animal as a guide because they've lost their instinct, right? That's pretty amazing, And for me, it's like wanting to regain that wildish spirit. Right? Who am I under the stories? Where's my wildish spirit? A little mischievous sometimes. Right? So if you were to ask yourself, what stage am I in right now? Caterpillar, chrysalis, butterfly. Or it might be easier for you to think of seed, sprout, blossom, going back into the earth. It's not like we get through one stage and never go there again. These just unfold in our lives at different times. And notice if you're stuck in it. Does it feel like you're stuck in a stage? It's okay. It's stuckness. We all get stuck. Couldn't you meet yourself with kindness? Right? Where do we need completion? So those are some good things to journal around. You're at the egg stage. Oh, embryo. I like that. We can work with the embryos. Things in pre and perinatal trauma. Deep work to work with your embryo self, your pre-birth self. What was happening in mom's life or grandma's life when you were just a real little one, right? Bless all these experiences. So, let's say it feels like it wants to come out, but something is stopping it. Yeah. Well, let's meet up sometime and see if we can help it move forward. And you can ask that part of yourself, what do you need? Right? I don't imagine it's fun for the egg or the chicken to be stuck in the birth canal. Not fun, right? So the other thing that trauma work really did for me, there was a part of me that got to a place in my life where I was thinking, when I was made, did they forget to put a piece in? What's wrong with me? And that was a real thought, right? Our nervous systems, and I'm not kind of not plugging our classes, but I just don't have to, we could do it in a day, right? But our nervous systems respond in a way to protect us. That's big. Congratulations, you survived. If you get depressed, your nervous system has shut down because it says, I've got no more energy for this. I'm in overwhelm and I'm done. And that's post-traumatic stress, it's shell shock, it's battle fatigue. I'm done. I need space. And if we're going through anxiety, often the two go hand in hand. I'm not a doctor, but I guess sometimes if we're in our sympathetic nervous system, panic, anxiety, it never lets up. I'm going to work and they're rerouting the traffic, right? Well, if we don't face it, it's still there. And anxiety is when we try to escape it. So that's our body protecting itself. Good job, you survived, but at a cost. So now we're learning how to do it differently. And that's a journey. It's not a weekend workshop. It's, as someone says, a slow drip process. We need community. We need time for ourselves, right? So, and the third nervous system we've worked with a little bit, and that's called our ventral nervous system, ventral vagal. And ventral vagal is when we can say, I'm okay. That doesn't mean, wahoo, I'm okay. It might mean that. It just means I'm okay right now. I got it. So when we bring that nervous system online, that keeps us from going into depression and isolation, and it keeps us from going into anxiety and panic, right? When we're in that space all the time, our kidneys and adrenal glands get worn out. One of the big diseases on the planet, or at least in Western culture at this time, is adrenal fatigue. It's because everybody's in the middle of anxiety. So if we had homework, I would say really exploring resources, and I'm not quite complete yet. We've got a little time here. And Kara wrote in and said, where do we find community? So we have to find what it is that allows us to settle. So exhausted. Big work carrying this stuff around. You survived, but sometimes at a cost, but now we're learning to do it differently. Community might be, I like to meditate, I like to do Qigong, so I have a community there. Some people might like to do artwork or belong to writing groups. Some people might like to take walks, go bird watching. Some people might like music. So it's finding, for me, it's people that hold the same values. And I want to say it's about kindness and compassion. Okay. Now I'm going to do a little honesty and advertising here. Do I feel fully embodied? I've already put in a disclaimer saying, nope. I can tell you I had about 20 seconds not long ago where I went outside and I felt this great aliveness, the breeze and the trees and the sun. And I realized later I was feeling what a child feels, right? You know, they go outside and the world is their oyster. No, I can't do cartwheels anymore. Children do cartwheels, somersaults. They jump, they can slide on ice and fall. There's a spontaneity and a flexibility. And somewhere along the line, we we take on all these stories. So it's about becoming ourselves, feeling embodied, the spontaneity of being alive, wonder. Right? What does that mean? There's thinking and thinking, particularly in our age of social devices. My teacher Ming Tong says, when we are in exile from the earth, we are in exile from our bodies. The earth is a sacred book. There's a rhythm. We're on all these social devices all the time, which allow us to meet and to hang out and to share, right? But if it's, look at all the kids on all these devices, we lose something when we're out of rhythm with nature. Thinking and thinking. You know what it's like to come home from the store, say shopping, and your mind is already thinking about what you're going to do when you get home. right? There's an Irish writer by the name of James Joyce, and in one of his books, there was a character called Mr. Duffy, and he describes Mr. Duffy as living 3 feet from his body, right? That's when our minds are at home. We're not in our bodies. So all of us, I like music, are like a musical instrument, and we get out of tune. And sometimes we get so out of tune, we don't know what it's like to be in tune, right? I get that. So we're just finding ways. What can I do that brings me in tune? I'd be there for a day at the ocean, right? Anybody? So to be, again, from my Qigong teacher, he says, people come to Qigong to heal, and they do. I'll give you links if you like to the woman who healed herself, more than one person, of MS and Parkinson's and depression, all these lists. But he said, it's not about healing the body. It's about becoming whole. It's about softening and opening to those places that hurt, that are contracted inside of us. And when we do that, this potency, this life force, divine essence, infinite light, whatever your name is, infinite compassion, flows again in the body, and that creates wellness. It's not a switch I can turn on, it's a process. And it happens when the body's ready. So the idea is to have some consistency to do this. Okay. Now, let's see. There we are. So it's about, I use this expression before, learning to tend and befriend our bodies. And that means all of us. My trauma teacher would say, on this journey, we bring all the bits and pieces. That includes the places we don't like. Right? We all want to go out and be our best and do our best and look our best and whatever, be right there, be accepted, be seen and heard. Can I accept myself when everything's off? Right? That's just me. So there's one, I'm just checking that time. Oh, it's 12:30. So let me just go here. Okay. So there's one more thing I would like to share that won't take long. And I'm wondering if I respect if people need to leave at 12:30, and I have to ask Christiana, how about you? And I can probably wrap this up in 5-7 minutes.
I'm good.
Okay. And I can be here longer. So if you need to leave, I will say thank you. And this is a piece I had almost thought to bring in the beginning, but here it is at the end. So there's a beautiful body of work called Compassionate Communication. And it talks about feelings and needs. Okay. Understanding this is essential in our life. And I'll put some information about this in that kind of little packet that we'll send off. We're often taught in life that there's good feelings and bad feelings, and that in order to get it all right, we have to have only good feelings. And sometimes we're taught that our feelings don't matter, or that it's not safe to have feelings, or that our needs aren't important, right? Real women don't have needs. Women are too needy, and real men don't have needs. That kind of thing. That's a kind of old paradigm. And oftentimes, again, our feelings weren't addressed because our parents, our teachers, our caretakers didn't know how to do that. So it's okay. It's not okay, but it's okay because we have a way to learn about feelings and needs to show them weakness. So there are strengths. Where are they coming from? Our body. Even if we did about our bodies, things, good feelings when our needs are met. And The other feelings tell us we have needs that aren't met, okay? So good feelings, we all want more of that. But the bad feelings, instead of being bad, what if they're a sign, a sacred sign really, that tell us we have an unmet need? And there's a list of needs. So an example is we can have more than one feeling at a time. We're human beings. We're rich human beings. So if I'm feeling angry, sometimes under anger is grief, confusion. Anger is good. It's a red flag that says, put the brake on, stop here, don't react. What are you feeling? It's anger. Okay. If I go deeper, there's usually grief, confusion. And then I might go to the need list. What I often do is have that feelings and needs laminated. It's right there. Means I can find it in my never-ending paper pile that reproduces at night when I'm asleep, right? So you can pull out your feelings and needs list because we need a good, strong vocabulary. I'm feeling these things. So we'll put the good feelings here, but the ones we want to judge, they're signs. They tell us we have an unmet need. In life, it's never about you make me feel this way because I need you to. It's I feel because I need. And sometimes the truth is other people can't meet our needs. No, like that, right? They can't meet our needs. And that might bring up sadness. Might bring up grumpiness, might bring up our feeling self-doubt. Not everyone can meet our needs. C'est la vie. La vida es así, whatever language. Life is like that, yes? But what if those unmet needs, what if the unmet feelings take us to the unmet needs? Or our feelings take us to the unmet needs? I really had a need for connection. I had a need to talk to this person, to see this person. They can't meet my need. The old way of speaking to people is to use, I got it counted out in my fingers, shame, blame, guilt, judgment, punishment. If you kids don't clean up your room, you can't get on the computer, okay? I'm using punishment to get a need met. The need is maybe, I want some order in the house, right? I'm feeling chaotic. I have a need for order. I have a need for our shared spaces to be picked up, to be orderly, right? So instead of using shame or blame or guilt, if you really love me, you'd call me more often. No, right? If you really love me, you'd call me more often. What's the need there? Maybe there's a need for communication, connection, closeness, emotional safety, even to express ourselves. Imagine saying to somebody, would you be willing to call me more often? Right? What about that? This is a whole new world, and this is a beautiful body of study that says everything we do in life is to get a need met. So I'm going to send you a link. There's a particular group that offers a year-long course in this. It starts in June. It's in 120 countries and 20 languages. What would it be like if our politicians, instead of using shame, blame, guilt, punishment, judgment, spoke with feelings and needs? So here, this group is in 120 countries and in 20 languages. And this course is I'll write about it when I send you the information. You get a lesson a week. The lessons are a few pages long. Easy to understand. The teacher offers an experience from his own personal life. And it costs, I think, $90 for the year, all the way down to $0. You pay what you can afford. Because it's that important to them that we allow people we can meditate till the cows come home. And I always like to say, which had meaning when I lived in Wisconsin, but we can meditate till the cows come home. But we have to have a way to communicate with others and within ourselves, right? And that's what compassionate communication supports us in doing. So I will send everyone feelings and needs and list information about this course. Some other things I do that I find really supportive. And I suspect it's time. Are we there? Just about. What needs do you have right now? What needs as a group? Yeah. Just a few of us here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Be good to.
So Carmen has a need for community. So you and I stay connected, Carmen. I will send you something and then we stay connected. You're in Charlottesville, so we can do that. We'll talk more about connection and community. Yeah. Thank you so much, Donna. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Amina.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Well, and I have emails from everybody, so I will send out Amina's gifts, the follow-up, and the recording link.
Thank you, Carmen. All right.
Thank you. Tom says that.
And thank you, Donna. May we have our needs met. May we feel embodied, happy, and whole. Thank you.